So in the Talmud, there's a theory that people like Paul were trying to obey the part of the Talmud. I think it's Sanhedrin. Is it Sanhedrin? Basically, to tell the Gentiles to obey the seven Noahide laws, give them something. Don't they're not to be studying the actual Torah, that's forbidden, but provide them some guidance. And so some people theorize that it started out as a sect of Jewish people trying to help the Gentiles. These diasporas were happening. They're in these new places. Hey, Greek guy that I now live next to, here are these stories. And so like people think it emerged with the good intention to obey that part of the Talmud to tell them, do not worship idols, do not curse God, do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not eat flesh. Like it almost seems like that was the initial intention, and then it ironically became anti-Semitic.
I don't think so. I think the seven Noahide laws are found in Acts 15, but that's because of a major schism in the early church. That's no doubt historical. So in Acts 15, we discover that there were many Christians who thought that in order to be a Christian, now they didn't call themselves Christians, but we're going to do that because it's conventional, that thought if you want to be a Christian, you have to first convert to Judaism, circumcision, everything. So there's an ecumenical council in which it was Peter, Paul, they're all there. It is resolved that if non-Jews keep the seven Noahide laws, they don't use that term, but you see the laws as you've articulated, don't eat the flesh of that was offered to idols, which Paul is going to just blow that off from 1 Corinthians 8 through 10. Then you're good. That's all you need to do to be if you're not Jewish, to be a good Christian, nothing else. But I think the movement began at a time that's hard to imagine, and that the first third of the first century, the Jews were living under a brutal occupation of the Roman Empire. And there were battles, and people were just, how are we going to get rid of the Roman Empire? They're huge. And only God can do this. And people were running around saying the end of the world is coming. And if it was not for Paul, Christianity would have gone nowhere. Paul does something remarkable. And I don't mean that in a good way, but he does something remarkable, and that is he synchronizes. He synchronizes pagan ideas with Jewish ideas. And so one point your viewers must know is that in the first century, the only monotheism in the world was Judaism. That was there was nothing else. No one else believed in only one God, and there's nothing else. Okay, so Judaism was popular. People were converting to Judaism in fairly large numbers. However, people knew that the Jews were not just a religion, but we were also a nation. And in order to become a Jew, it's not that easy. And to keep the commandments is not the easiest thing. Circumcision is certainly not. So what happens if you're offered the following? If you're offered that you could essentially become the same, equal to the Jew, and you don't have to keep any commandments. And the whole reason the commandments were given is to show that you're a sinner. And you're all one in the body of Christ. There is no Jew or Gentile, man or woman, slave or free man. So, wow. So what Paul did was he's bringing Greco-Roman ideas, trying to synchronize it with Judaism, but he's essentially taking away the two stumbling blocks of what may prevent someone from becoming a Jew. Number one, people don't want to keep all those commandments. Today it's very easy to be a religious Jew, but then it may have not been that easy. And number two is you are heir to the promises if you're a Jew, if you just believe in Jesus. So bingo, that's what is his ability, because Christianity is inventing nothing. It's borrowing everything and then synchronizing everything. I mean, the Greeks didn't invent anything besides theater, but they're taking from all over the Levant and way beyond and transforming it into a way that what we know as Western civilization, just synchronizing that all. Paul is going to go with that. And once Paul comes in and synchronizes these ideas that were very attractive at the time, so bang, that would open up floodgates. And that's why his version of Christianity is adopted. That's why Galatians, in a way, is the most important of his books. I mean, Romans and Galatians, but Galatians, he really just very clearly lays all this stuff out. You don't have to keep the law. Don't be an idiot. Just, just be a good person. Don't get circumcised. That won't help you. And you're in the body of Christ. Bingo, you're set. So that Paul's the guy. Without Paul, he's the number one most important figure, not Jesus.
Mhm.
Whoever Jesus was, he didn't do this. Paul did.